J-Lo reeks of desperation, and that's coming from me, who is in total desperation mode from the second I wake up to the second I lay my head down at night. The amount of times that I open Daily Mail and the headline reads, J-Lo seen walking her dog in the Hamptons, ... again. Like, they might as well.
It's Sofia Franklyn. You are listening to Sofia with an F, and the F is for phenomenal.
Welcome to Sofia with an F. I have a full house here. I've got Allie, my bestie. I've got Soph. I've got the ghost of Benny Blanco, which is Soph's alter ego. Soph is my assistant, by the way, and I will want Soph to join me in some of the content I'm making. And I don't really give her a heads up. However, I am kind enough to tell her, hey, I'm going to film this and I would like for you to be in it with me. At which point, Soph is forced to hurry and throw on a trucker hat and big sunglasses because you know what? Soph doesn't want to outshine me, which
I would never do that.
It's
my alter ego. And I also just want to say thank you for platforming me like that.
Wait, you're talking a little bit too much. I'm actually in the middle of
Sorry, it's speak when spoken to at Swap.
Can you imagine? But speaking of outshine, Soph, I want to tell you about the wedding. So I'm going to recap the whole wedding. I just think I need to tell you guys, there was pre and post wedding. I would equate it to pre-wedding jitters. And by the way, this isn't me getting married. This is one of my really good friends. But jitters nonetheless. Here's the thing about Invisalign. They're not sponsoring this episode. I really, really try to embrace my authentic self and my genuine self. And I try to not be shallow. However, Allie is Allie.
No, wait, also is it go?
Allie's being very distracting on her laptop working and not looking at me. And it seems like she's in the middle of a work call. Okay. Invisalign. When everyone thinks of Invisalign, you think, okay, they're just like these clear liners that you pop on your teeth and you're out the door. There's so much more to them. I have great teeth. For whatever reason, I went to see an orthodontist because my permanent retainer kept breaking, and she was adamant that it was not safe for me to go home and shove the retainer that was given to me 3 years ago from my orthodontist in Utah so that my teeth would stay in place. She said that's really not good for your teeth to try to shove them in a completely different direction by like 3 inches to the right overnight. So she was like, you need to get Invisalign. I asked this bitch for braces, okay? Because that is how much I cannot be trusted with the Invisalign process. You have to be an adult. You have to be on top of your shit. You cannot so as much have a sip of chai tea without taking the aligners out, having a sip of your fucking tea, then going to the bathroom, brushing your teeth, putting them back in. Like, imagine having to do that anytime you want to ingest anything but water. She looked at me and she was like, you're not getting braces. Invisalign will actually be quicker. Apparently, not only did she have an issue with me trying to shove my teeth back into my retainer from high school, she had an issue with my overbite. No one ever told me I had an overbite. So I'm doing Invisalign to fix an overbite. What does that mean? That not only do I have like these aligners that go on my teeth, I had to go in a few days before the wedding and get these things put on that are called attachments. And attachments, for those of you who don't know, are basically these little hard pieces of mass that are glued to the outside of your teeth so that when you put your liners over them, drum roll please, you can add rubber bands, okay? So you can get one rubber band, attach it to the attachment up top, and stick it to the attachment down below. I would compare rubber bands to fangs. And let me tell you why. Because I was looking at an apartment, Soph was there with me, and as we were leaving, I had to like get something done back at the apartment ASAP, and it was giving me anxiety. And so I asked Soph, like, I think, do you see that sign right there? It says happy hour is ending in 30 minutes. I feel like we shouldn't miss out on that opportunity, and we'll just get a couple cocktails and then we'll go handle this thing. And Soph told me absolutely not. At which point I started pleading with her like a child. I'm like waving my arms. I grab Soph. I take her to the side. I'm flailing my arms. I'm like pleading, please, 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 please. Let's just get like one little drink and an appetizer. And she's telling me no. And then later on, she told me that was the first time that she's ever kind of seen me with fangs. And I asked her, what the fuck, what do you mean fangs? And she said, well, you were just screaming and like you were so passionate about getting drinks for happy hour that your rubber bands were kind of like coming out of your mouth like fangs. So that's kind of my thought process going into this wedding is like, I don't want my husband to meet me when I have fangs. I don't want to have fangs when I meet the love of my life, which if you listen to last week's episode was made very clear by Tori and Leah that like my future husband / very eligible suitor, you can't really use a slash, you can't really use those interchangeably, but I am. There was going to be a lot of great looking guys who would be possible suitors for me. I didn't want to be rolling up to the wedding with fangs. So I found myself laying in my bed after I called the orthodontist and pleaded with them to remove the attachments, let me go to this wedding, come back, and they can just stick them on like a fucking sticker. They don't really work like that. They were going to charge me $600. I was like, okay, you guys have double the amount of YouTube followers than me. You can just go ahead and monetize that and stop trying to rob me blind of $600. And that's like truth right there. They have like 100-something thousand subscribers. I have no idea why it's an orthodontist YouTube page. Anyways, I'm laying in bed. I'm scrolling. I decide to do this deep dive so that I could just be comforted and feel more comfortable going into this wedding. So I type in, do men care if women have attachments? And this like AI generated thing pops up and it starts talking about like avoidant attachment, which I'm shaking my head up and down. Yes. Yes. My attachments make me very avoidant.
Totally.
They make me like want to cover my mouth or make me not even want to be as social, you know?
Total insecurity. Totally fair.
So I'm like, check avoidant attachment for sure. Anxious attachment. I'm like, thank you for seeing me. Like I felt seen. I'm like, yes, it makes me anxious. Yes. And then I realized what I was reading was just straight up attachment styles, because then the next thing I read was like, men have less emotional attachment. And I got very confused. And so I really needed to specify Invisalign attachments.
Totally.
Do men care if women have Invisalign attachments? And that generated a whole different kind of thing.
Could be just a metaphor for attachments in general.
I mean, they're similar, right? In how they make me feel.
Lots of poetry in that.
A lot of poetry, but the thing is, you don't know what poetry is until you come across Sky Dental. Unfortunately, Sky Dental is not my orthodontist, but I wish that they were, because their headline, and basically the first thing that popped up on the search engine once I decided to clarify what the fuck I was talking about, it said, "We have great news for you. there's a very high chance they won't notice your invis, in all caps, align at all.
Wow.
Hence the name Invisalign. Get it? Like invisible?
Yeah.
This whole article pops up and it's titled Dating, Kissing, and Other Invisalign Questions You Don't Want to Ask Your Dentist. And I have never felt more seen. It's like this whole world of support opened up for me. It said, assuming your date hasn't run off screaming into the night after spotting your barely visible self-improvement hardware.
Reframe.
You're probably ordering a drink by now. That didn't feel that good. We don't need to be referring to my Invisalign like hardware.
We're going to worst case.
Yeah.
Screaming into the night.
Yeah. Self-improvement hardware. I mean, it might as well be headgear. Like, let's just like relax. That's my whole spiel. No guy ended up coming up to me or talking to me. So it was really something I didn't even need to think about or care about. Do you think that once my overbite is fixed and there's no longer this like Invisalign wall in between me and romance, that more men will approach me?
It could be that.
I only want to date a guy who is supportive of me fixing an overbite, which can actually end up being a huge issue down the line. That's just a little bit about the Invisalign, and I have so much more to say about the wedding, but before I jump into it, real quick, J-Lo and Ben Affleck split up. Oh my God, no one saw it coming. The whole thing was like a PR stunt to begin with. I'm not shocked. Who files for divorce on their anniversary? J-Lo does. And that isn't even really the reason why I think this whole thing is a PR stunt. It's like J-Lo reeks of desperation, of trying to stay famous and stay relevant. And that's coming from me, who is in total desperation mode from the second I wake up to the second I lay my head down at night, you know? So I can kind of see myself in J-Lo, but it's like the amount of times that I open Daily Mail and the headline reads, J-Lo seen walking her dog in the Hamptons, ... again. If Daily Mail is reporting on you and they have to say at the end of the headline, again, for the 20th time this week, you kind of know there's an issue. My friend saw her at Equinox the other day.
Really?
Working out.
Wait, was she doing there was the scene in the documentary where she's in her gym.
So we haven't spoken about the J-Lo documentary on
really
this
hard
podcast.
to put into words.
I don't even care about J-Lo and Ben splitting up.
No.
I just used it as kind of a launching pad to talk about the J-Lo documentary. It is a documentary that should be required in school.
In a psychology class, to be clear.
in film school, like kind of in a psychology type way of like, this is such good documenting because you can see the psychology of this person. J-Lo is not okay. And I never realized this about J-Lo. I've always loved her, Jenny from the Block. The documentary is basically Ben Affleck and J-Lo's, what is it called? Dynamic. Ben Affleck, during the entire documentary, is basically roasting her to her face with the cameras rolling and it going right over her head. She is so self-involved and self-indulgent and so not self-aware that I have never seen anything like it. And usually people, especially at that level of celebrity, can like at least fake that they have feelings or, you know, are on planet Earth with the rest of us. Like J-Lo didn't have the capacity to do that. And there is one moment in the documentary where Ben is talking about these love letters that he wrote to J-Lo 20 years ago when they were a couple. and how she decided to take the physical letters and show her entire staff what Ben wrote to her.
Intimate details.
Very intimate details, and is bothered. He doesn't think it's cute. He doesn't think it's art. He doesn't, like, he hates her. You know there's something wrong when Ben Affleck is like the voice of reason. And he's not sober.
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
But it's like, that's when you know things are off, is when Ben Affleck is pleading with J-Lo, trying to be like, please blink twice if you're with me.
There's also, they make him like the producer of sorts. So he's like begrudgingly interviewing her. And then she's like, does this whole spiel about like how he's used to her looking all bummy.
Oh, right. She starts saying like, babe, you know, like everyone's used to Jenny from the block and me with my hair done and my makeup done. And he cuts her off and says, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. People, you're pretty without makeup. That's not like a cutesy thing to say. Don't do that.
He's over it.
He's so over it. And it's just the most alarming film/documentary I've ever seen. And the reason I keep referring to it as maybe a film, maybe a documentary, maybe a music video is because all of the people involved don't know what the fuck it is, including J-Lo. They don't know what it is. They tried to describe it as a documentary about J-Lo and Ben's love, but by explaining that they're filming a music video that is about their love.
Which, by the way, they say several times it's never before been done. So actually, they don't care to explain it because it's so we could not grasp it even through watching this documentary.
No one funded this documentary. Why do I know that? Because that was a huge plot line, is how Amazon, Apple, HBO Max, all of these like entities told J-Lo straight up, we don't want to fund this fucking crazy ass music video /documentary wild ass thing. And why J-Lo decides to keep that in the film, I'm not sure. Why does she decide to brag that she is going to fund her own documentary with her millions of dollars? Because in her brain, that made it art. And that's why all of these studios were way too scared
Direct quote.
Yeah, direct quote. These studios were way too scared to fund this film because it was just too artsy and they weren't brave enough.
I'm about to put you guys onto the best lazy girl hack that all the hot girls are doing, and it's buying the Skims Soft Lounge collection. I will be wearing Skims all day on the couch and feeling lazy, and the next day I throw on the exact same outfit plus a chunky earring and grab lunch with the girls and look completely put together and cute as shit. You want to be fiscally responsible? Get you an outfit that can do both. I wore the viral Soft Lounge long slip dress, I have it in gray, to run errands, and I have never been hit on more in my entire life. I know it makes my body look amazing, but that was like a reaction I've never had before. It's that good, and it's worth all of the hype. Shop the Skims Soft Lounge collection at skims.com, now available in sizes extra, extra small to 4X. If you haven't yet, be sure to let them know that I sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select my show in the drop-down menu that follows. Love you, Sloots. The amount of things that I have tried to feel better after a night of drinking are countless. They know no bounds. Chugging a gallon of water, then realistically knowing I just need to sleep it off for a few days. The thing is, you guys, now there's Z-Biotics. And when I tell you that this thing is a complete game changer. That is the understatement of the year. ZBiotics is a pre-alcohol probiotic from the brand ZBiotics. Their probiotic was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. This is a proactive solution that wards off feeling miserable the next day instead of a reactive approach like drinking electrolytes or eating greasy food, whatever it is. I packed this for a wedding weekend. I took it right before my first sip of champagne. I didn't really know what to expect. Waking up the next day, holy shit. Like, I woke up and I was just ready to go. I got a workout in, and this is all before the wedding ceremony, by the way. Well rested, looked great. Like, it was just, there are no words. I could not recommend this enough. Join the movement of empowered women choosing ZBiotics for fresher and more productive mornings. Go to zbiotics.com/Sofia to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Sofia at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/Sofia and use the code Sofia at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times. It is very, very hot in here, and I'm just going to be taking this zip up off and on and off and on. It's 93 degrees. So for everyone that keeps saying like, oh my God, it's the last week of summer and Labor Day weekend, it's not the last week of summer. Sure, maybe kindergartners are going back to school, but us adults, we celebrate summer until the official last day of summer, which is at the end of September, which brings me to the wedding recap that I have been dying to do. It was the wedding of the century. It was such a fucking vibe. The bride, Tori from Boys Lie, she had everyone wear white on the wedding day, and seeing a sea of white, it was just stunning. Like, it was so gorgeous. They had like these little white lantern mini umbrellas for all the girls. And it was just beyond beautiful. And the wedding was at Tori's dad's place, which is equally as gorgeous. Okay. And I don't want to be that bitch, but like, let's just say it's more of an estate than a home. And as I recall, one of the speeches that was said during the reception dinner, which was really funny, like the guy made a joke about like the GDP in the room, which I thought was funny. And I know I'm not part of that whole GDP mention, but no one else thought it was funny and they were like dead silent. But back to the wedding. Tori's dress, she played a little trick on me. She said she would be wearing silver, but her dress was in fact pearl. And it was just immaculate. Like, she looked like the Little Mermaid times a million trillion with long, blonde, wavy hair. And it was really special. Tori's speech, I tend to get like emotional during weddings. I, for real, teary-eyed, and like a little tear went down my face because it was just such a heartfelt, like, real speech. I don't like when I go to weddings and people read their vows and it's just like, there's no depth, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, they're not really saying anything. They're just like, you're my best friend and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you. Okay, bye. Hers was not that.
So the speech was to him. Was it at the wedding or the rehearsal dinner?
So that was at the wedding. Emily, who is like our mutual friend and she works in PR, was there. She was one of the bridesmaids and she said, oh, when I first drove up to Tori's place here, I thought it was like a gated community. And then I realized like, oh no, it's just like her house. If that puts anything into perspective, Tori's gonna fucking kill me. But Tori, in her own right, makes her own money. Like just because, you know, your parents have money. Now I'm rambling. Maybe we could Google him. Maybe we could fact check his net worth. I'm not really sure, but we'll look into it. So I do want to kind of just transition and talk about me. It wasn't my wedding. I did walk into it a little bit with high hopes, and I walked away just as happy, albeit I walked away without a husband. And that's okay, you know? And in fact, I feel better about it because it was really Tori's day, and that would have just been like a huge overshadow.
Of course.
And so I'm actually really happy I didn't find anyone. I did try on a lot of people's rings, like a lot of married people that I was surrounded by. I took that as an opportunity, you know, and there's like love in the air and romance in the air. And I was like, I kind of want to manifest this feeling for me in the very near future. So at the welcome dinner, there was this amazing girl named Sarah. Sarah, was it Sarah? Sitting to my right, doesn't matter. Sofia. Allie. Her name was Sofia, actually. So let me just clarify that. Yeah, Sophia's just like such a common name, you know, like whatever. Her name was Sofia. And she actually officiated the wedding the next day in a Chanel suit. So that was fabulous. But at the welcome dinner, we were sat next to each other and I saw her ring and I asked to please put it on, which I don't know if that's bad juju. Like the second I put her ring on my wedding ring finger on my left hand, it felt a tiny bit wrong. Like, is that, I don't know if that's okay. I don't know if that's disrespectful. I'm not really sure. But I did at that point also pull out my iPhone to take multiple pictures of how the ring looked on my hand. And then also decided to furthermore post the pictures on my Instagram story. And I made like a little joke and I thought it was cute and, you know, whatever else. That backfired big time to the point that the bride, Tori, on the night of her wedding, had to put out a public disclaimer on Instagram stories stating, A, I, in fact, did not get engaged at her welcome dinner. B, that ring actually belongs to her friend, another Sofia, who is happily married with, can't remember his name, but he was also delightful. And C, that I am still very, very much single. And so that everyone at the wedding party does not need to feel like I'm off limits. And they are more than welcome to, you know, make their advances. Did that happen? Fuck no. And in fact, I don't think I've ever been less approached in my life. And I would love to chalk it up to like, you know, it just, I'm so intimidating and like, you know, my personality is so huge and like my beauty and they wanted to so badly. I think it's because I did this thing during the welcome dinner. I'm going to chalk it up to this. I felt that within the first hour or two of the wedding celebrations, you know, getting on their way and meeting everybody for the first time, there was this girl there who I do believe put a hex on me. And I wouldn't normally say that, but to just paint a picture, we were having the welcome dinner drinks, the aperitifs, and I was standing at the table with my friend Emily and like Casey and Allie and like, girls that I've known. And this girl came up to the table where there were multiple tables available, okay? And these are teeny tiny tables where like kind of like my ring size, but like teeny tiny small round tables. Like it's kind of more of an intimate table setting. Like it's a standing table where you just have a drink. And this girl came over and placed her drink on the table and just stood there and just watched us as we talked to each other. It was bad juju, bad aura right from the get-go. But then it kind of turned into this thing where every single time I would scan the room, homegirl was like trying to turn me into stone type thing. Just laser beams coming out of her eyes, staring at me. My mind always goes to, oh, she must have fucked my ex or is like having sex with my ex or something of that nature. That's what was going through my head. I was not able to confirm that, story that I had in my head.
She knew something about you, though.
That's what it
maybe
felt
from
like.
a deep past.
That's from a deep, deep past. Maybe a past I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Maybe another life.
You don't really know how to protect yourself from a threat like that.
Well, I don't, but my friend Nikki did. And here is the thing that I think may have turned some men off from approaching me. So my friend Nikki said, oh my God, do you feel like this kind of negative energy? Do you want me to help you cleanse it? And I said, fuck yeah. So then Nikki, in the middle of this sea of eligible bachelors, also waiting for a drink, who I just, was introduced to a couple hours before, they're all witnessing Nikki pull out a crystal from her bra and do a full crystal cleansing right there on the spot.
Some body work.
Some serious body work.
Alignment.
Head to toe, left to right. Put your left foot in, put your left foot out. I don't know if that maybe gave some of the guys the heebie-jeebies, but you know what? Then they're not my husband.
No.
That's what that means.
They should want someone that's aligned, chakras aligned, lean into some sorcery.
If I want to whip out a crystal during fucking sex and cleanse the air and the energy mid blowjob, I will do that. I want to jump into your questions and your stories, and I'm ready to give some advice and just some overall commentary. SOS, save our sloots. Except today, things are going to be a little teeny tiny bit different because we got Benny Blanco in the room, and he will be not putting together incredible beats, but he will be reading the questions.
I can't wait. But the iPad's still here. So
the
no
iPad is right next to me with my ass hanging out. Ooh, look at this. I could just cover my butt.
A sensor, a branded sensor.
Yeah, my butt is so big though that the iPad barely covers it. Okay, go.
First question. Any advice for dealing with British men? I genuinely can't tell whether he's an asshole or just British. We have great sarcastic banter, and we started out as friends, but sometimes I need to get real with him. If I try to talk, he'll shut down and say that it's very Californian to be vulnerable and in touch with your feelings, and that it's difficult for him to be open because of his cultural upbringing, LOL. Is he evil or just repressed? I normally am so good at reading people, but I cannot crack this one.
Very valid question.
Really well written.
Very well written. Very funny. Is he British or is he just an asshole? He's British. And let me tell you why I know that. My mom was dating a guy for 3+ years who was British. And my mom and I would actually have this exact conversation very, very often. And it wasn't so much like, is he an asshole? It was just understanding that there is a serious cultural difference. Also, my stepdad is from New Zealand, which is not in London, and I don't believe it's nearby, but same kind of vibe where they don't talk about feelings in England, okay? They have tea, and during tea, they're probably giving tea and they're like discussing things in maybe a very funny, dry way, but they're not being vulnerable. They're not talking about how they feel. They will make a joke out of absolutely anything and everything. In fact, I think their humor is probably like a little bit dodgier, a little bit more risque than Americans. That doesn't mean they're assholes. That just means, you know, this guy, it's going to take him a little bit to be vulnerable with you. He actually probably won't ever be vulnerable with you, if I'm going to be honest, but you'll know if the love is there. It's a feeling. Sometimes they don't have to articulate it. They don't have to say it, but it's a total cultural difference. I was about to say I'm like that. I cannot shut the fuck up about my feelings. All I do is talk about my feelings.
You're so Californian then.
I am very Californian. However, I do make a joke about anything the second that I start to feel even a teeny tiny amount of vulnerability. Like, I will shut it down with like a joke. I just think that what the English lack in vulnerability, they make up for in banter.
Love.
And if you can banter, that's something they're going to thrive. No comedy will ever be lost with someone who's British, just any feelings or security in terms of how they feel about you or if they love you.
Funny British boyfriend, worth it. Not quite sure if you're dating, worth it.
Also, your status just went up 20 notches.
Totally. Next one?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Sofia. I've been hooking up on and off with this guy from my university for 3 years now. I've started to develop feelings and I think he feels the same, but I'm not 100% sure. Do I have to read between the lines? Or will he just tell me straight?
I used to live by the mantra, if a guy likes you, he will let you know. I no longer think that way. And I think that there are a lot of scenarios where a guy might not, maybe he's British.
Maybe he's British.
Maybe the guy that this girl's sleeping with is British, and he quite literally will never let her know if he loves her or not.
Also, like, has she said? I don't know. He could also be insecure. Like,
I didn't realize that men get insecure, that they get nervous, that they get scared, that they get intimidated, that they have feelings, that maybe they feel some trepidation around bringing up the DTR, define the relationship thing. So you have two options. You're either going to be straight up. Oh my God, I would have never, ever, ever suggested that. I would have said, you fucking take that shit to the grave. If he's not bringing it up first, then you never bring it up. We don't do that anymore. We're grown now. So I think there is absolutely nothing wrong with just asking him, hey, we've been having sexual intercourse for, the better part of 3 years, 365 days in a year, times that by 3. So where are we going from here? I have feelings. I'm starting to get feelings for you. It took 3 years to start getting feelings for you. So don't get too up your own ass. But how do you feel about that? What do you think about that? And then you'll have your answer. Personally, I wouldn't want to waste any more time, because worst case scenario, he's like, nope, I'm not into you. This is strictly sex. And then at that point, you can decide what you want to do with that information. Second option is to float a very subtle, very inconspicuous threat his way. And what I mean is, you basically need to have a night where you blow him off or you say something that makes him afraid of losing you. But it can't be direct. You can't be telling this guy, oh my gosh, I don't know, so many guys are trying to date me and it's getting exhausting. And I just you can't be transparent with it. It has to be so subtle. It just has to threaten your guys' situationship enough that if your threat didn't land and went right over his head, no issue. It's a non-issue because you can just go on to the next day and both of you guys will have no idea what the fuck happened. But if it does land, then you will have your answer by the way he responds. So there's no risk, only upside. And since you're obviously feeling nervous about bringing it up to this guy, I would suggest that one. The empty, subtle threat, just to see how he reacts. Next question.
I love your motto, I have options. What's your opinion on men who date around and treat girls they're seeing as options? Recently, I found out that I wasn't the only one this guy's been dating, and I called things off.
Girl, same. Actually, this exact scenario is what's happening to me right now. I was talking to this guy. We went on one date, so that's not fucking crazy. But it's been this kind of
pretty big deal.
It wasn't for me to go on a date and for me to be like, oh, I kind of like that guy. I actually called him after the date and said, hey, I like you, by the way. Then I found out through just the gossip train that he has been dating, which initially I completely shut down. And I was like, oh, obviously I'm out here dating. I am a girl. But the fact that you are going on dates with other women, even though I literally just went on one date with you, I didn't like it. And I think that we already come from a very defensive place as women. Mm-hmm. So if we hear that a dude, if we hear anything out of the ordinary about a guy in the early stages, I think a natural reaction is to just completely shut down. So when I heard, oh, yeah, 2 girls have asked about him this month, I internalized it as fuck boy. Bye. Right. He's done. He has to go above and beyond to let me know that I'm the only person he's dating, even though we went on one date and I'm very blatantly dating other people. Then I slept on it. I came to the conclusion that was crazy. Like that, it is crazy to think that way. When you are dating someone, they don't owe you anything. You know, I don't think you can expect someone to shut down other options. The alternative to that is he has no options and therefore what is wrong with him? And it's like, it can't be this all or nothing thinking. It's like, okay, so bitches want him. Okay, great. Next.
Hey, Sofia. I've been going through some confusing ass shit with my boyfriend. We've been together for about 5 months and he's everything I've ever wanted. About a week ago, he randomly texted me and said he needs to go MIA to, quote, reset himself, and has pretty much shut me out. Why does he need to cut me out of his life for an undisclosed amount of time with zero clarification?
For 2 people to be in a committed relationship, that can't fly. Oh, what about when you guys get married and you have kids? Is he just going to text you and be like, oh my God, I just need to go MIA for a second. If you could just handle every single thing happening in both of our lives and I'll just be back when I feel better. Not going to fly. If he feels the need to remove himself completely from a situation, probably not ready to be in a relationship. I want to play devil's advocate because it's my favorite game to play. If he comes back in a not insane amount of time, if it took him a day or 2 and he comes back with the most valid reasoning because something so horrifyingly traumatic happened, or he comes back and he makes it very clear to you That will never fucking happen again. That is not my character. And if everything in the relationship leading up to this moment, he has meant everything he's said and his actions have also reflected his words, and this is just like this crazy thing that's happening all of a sudden, try to give him the benefit of the doubt. This is one of those one time. If it happens a second time, it's done. Okay, hit me with the last one.
Coffee before or after sex?
Is that a thing? I need you to keep me young right now. So is that a thing?
What if you're like, I love sitting in bed with my partner with like coffee?
Then coffee after. If we're talking about morning sex, which that would make the most sense. I think mornings, this is the thing about morning sex. It has to happen before either of you have stood up from the bed. You're still living in the oxytocin that happened from the night before and from snuggling and waking up next to each other. If the second I stand up, you're dead to me. The day has started and like that's it. So especially if we're making a who makes a coffee and gets back in bed?
What if it's like a dessert coffee though? Like what if you've had an amazing meal and then you have a little dessert coffee?
Okay, but are you having sex after the meal?
Yeah, I guess
you never have coffee before sex, no matter what. No matter what. Doesn't matter what time of day. Doesn't matter what kind of coffee. Doesn't matter the caffeine or if it's decaf. You should never have coffee before sex. Only after. And I will die on that hill. And with that, Sloots, I love you guys so much. I will talk to you next week. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe to Sofia with an F. Love you so much. So thank you.
Thank you.